Welcome back to the Deep Dive, brought to you by the Nepali Diaspora Network. Today we're doing something a bit special, diving deep into the latest Nepali Diaspora Digest newsletter. Think of this as your essential update, your shortcut to staying really plugged into what's happening back home and, with Nepalese all around the globe.
That's exactly right. We're aiming to pull out the key insights, the really important stuff, from policy changes to cultural highlights, just trying to give you a clear picture without, drowning you in information.
Exactly. So if you want to get a handle on the forces shaping Nepal right now and celebrate some of the achievements of Nepalese worldwide, stick with us. We've got updates on wages, politics, some surprising developments too. Okay, let's get into it. Let's kick things off with something that hits close to home for many families. Nepal has increased its minimum monthly wage. What are the details?
Yeah, that's a big one. The new minimum is set at 19,550 Nepali rupees per month. That's about a 13% jump from the old rate of 17,300.
13%, okay.
And this wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It was a tripartite agreement, government, unions, employers, and it kicked in July 17th, the first day of the new fiscal year, 2082-83 BS.
Right, the start of the fiscal year. So beyond the numbers, what's the real-world impact for people in Nepal? And maybe how does this, look to Nepalese working abroad?
Well, the main goal is twofold, really. One, help households deal with rising inflation. Two, maybe, just maybe, slow down the outflow of workers heading abroad for better pay. Plus, this increase automatically bumps up benefits under the Social Security Fund, which already covers, 2.1 million workers?
That's significant.
It is. But, and this is a big but, the unions are already saying enforcement is tricky, especially in the informal sector, which is huge in Nepal. So for those of you listening overseas, it's a positive step, definitely. But let's be honest, it's still a long way from matching earnings abroad. Even the Prime Minister, KP Sharma Oli, acknowledged its importance, saying something like, progress isn't possible without labor, and prosperity means nothing without respect for laborers.
A powerful statement. Okay, so from individual wages, let's zoom out to the bigger financial picture. The stock market seems to be showing some real energy.
Oh, absolutely. It's quite remarkable. The Nepal Stock Exchange, NEPSE, had a record day recently. Turnover hit 16.6 billion rupees in a single day.
Wow.
And the whole year, fiscal year 2024-25. Trading volume shot up by 189%. We're talking 2.125 trillion rupees.
189%, that's huge. What's behind that kind of surge? Is it broad-based or focused somewhere specific?
A lot of it seems to be focused particularly in hydropower. That sector's seen a lot of optimism. For instance, the Karnali project, the 900-megawatt one. It's been delayed for like 2 decades.
I remember hearing about that ages ago.
Exactly. Well, they finally invited bids for construction. Big step forward. And then there's the Ratha plant, 40 megawatts. It just got another deadline extension till November 2025. It's apparently 90% done already. Analysts are projecting total energy investment could top 3 trillion rupees by 2035. And importantly, the private sector is now driving most of this, about 81% of electricity production.
Okay, 81% from the private sector. That's a major commitment. But surely it's not all smooth sailing, right? What are the challenges?
No, definitely not smooth sailing. There are still major hurdles. Things like complex legal stuff, permits taking forever, different government agencies not coordinating well, especially around things like forest boundaries, getting land, environmental rules. It's complicated.
Right.
And there are ongoing squabbles over the types of power purchase agreements, take or pay versus take and pay. That really impacts the financial health of these projects.
The contract details, always crucial.
Crucial. And even though Nepal exported, 17 billion rupees worth of electricity last year and is aiming for 23 billion this year, there's a real push needed to increase domestic consumption too. You need a local market to make these massive projects truly sustainable long term.
Makes sense. You need somewhere for all that power to go. Okay, so energy is a big driver, but what about other infrastructure? Anything else moving forward, like connectivity?
Yes, definitely. The Siddhababa Tunnel project is making good progress. It's designed for safer travel between Lumbini and Gandaki provinces. It's now over 57% physically complete. This is that tunnel on the Palpa-Butwal Road, the section notorious for landslides.
Oh, right. That's a vital link.
It is. It's about 1.1 kilometers long, and they're also doing slope stabilization work around it. The target for completion is March 2027. So, still a ways to go, but moving.
Good to hear. And what about Fiwa Lake in Pokhara? Such an iconic spot. Any news on protecting it?
Yes, finally. The boundary demarcation is actually happening now. They've installed hundreds of physical poles, over 600, I think along about 16 kilometers. This is to mark the high water line following that Supreme Court order from 2018.
The one about the 65-meter buffer zone.
That's the one. Protecting the lake, removing illegal structures. It's a really crucial step for preserving FUA.
Absolutely vital. Speaking of attracting people, tourism-wise, I heard Mustang has a new cycling trail. Sounds pretty adventurous.
It does. It's an 8-kilometer trail, high altitude, running from Jomsom to Darkajung. We're talking over 4,000 meters up. Apparently the views are incredible, upper Mustang, lower Mustang, even towards the China border.
Wow. Has it made a difference yet?
Seems like it. Tourist numbers in Mustang were up 55% last fiscal year. Over 700,000 visitors. This trail is definitely part of that draw.
That's fantastic growth. And the Nepal Tourism Board, NTB, they're pushing hard too, right? What's their plan?
They are. They've got a budget of about 1.6 billion rupees for this fiscal year. Big focus on infrastructure, promotion, branding. And get this, 70% of that budget is earmarked for international promotion.
70%, that's a serious push.
Yeah, they're planning to hit major travel fairs, run sales missions in key markets. The goal is to boost tourist arrivals by at least 15% this year.
Ambitious, but good to see that focus.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to digital Nepal, particularly financial services. Our sources mention huge potential here. Yeah, it's an interesting picture. Over 80% of adults have a mobile phone, which is great. But only about 6% are actually using mobile money accounts.
Only 6%. That seems low given the phone ownership.
It is low. But even that small percentage seems to be nudging people towards formal savings. About 35% of adults now say they save formally. So there's a base building.
Okay, a foundation. What about just using digital methods for payments, not necessarily mobile money accounts?
About 19% made some kind of digital payment, and 13% use digital platforms for sending or receiving money. There's also a bit of a gender gap in card ownership. 17% of men have a debit or credit card compared to 11% of women. Something to keep an eye on.
Right. So looking beyond just the convenience, how can this digital finance really, change things for families, especially thinking about empowerment, maybe for women?
That's where the real potential lies. Digital tools can open up access to capital, simplify things, huge empowerment potential. Look at domestic remittances sending money within Nepal. 86% of adults doing that now use a financial account. That's a massive shift.
86%. That's impressive.
And there was a study in Nepal showing that when government benefits were paid directly into women's bank accounts, household spending on nutritious food went up by 15%.
Yeah.
That gives women more control over finances, challenges some of those old gender norms. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. It's not just about speed. It's about changing dynamics. I think the Federation of Women Entrepreneurs talked about this too.
Exactly. Shova Gawali, their president, emphasized how tech can connect rural women to global markets, turn a village girl into a global entrepreneur, as she put it, by creating these inclusive digital marketplaces.
And are we seeing practical examples of that, new platforms?
Yes, actually. A new platform called Umido Partners just launched. Their goal is pretty ambitious. Reach 1 million users and 25,000 partners by 2026.
Okay, I wanted to watch them.
Definitely. And on a related note, Rastriya Banija Bank just disbursed 29 million rupees in grants. This was for industries adopting energy-saving measures, part of a project backed by the EU and Germany, aiming for big energy savings annually.
Good to see that link between finance and sustainability, too. Now, staying with finance but shifting to government management, the Ministry of Finance put out new budget guidelines.
They did. A 95-point list for implementing this year's budget, FY 28-83. The focus is on transparency, accountability, getting projects done, things like penalties for delays, cutting administrative costs, rules for foreign travel, trying to tighten things up.
Seems necessary, especially if revenues are down.
Right. Government revenue only hit 82% of the target last year, and spending was at 81%. So fiscal discipline is key. On the revenue side, though, the land revenue offices did collect over 51 billion rupees last year. And they've issued over 27,000 land ownership certificates.
Okay, quite a bit happening on the financial front. Let's pivot now to the political scene. There's been a significant shift in the ruling coalition. What happened with JSPN?
Yeah, the Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal, led by Upendra Yadav, they formally pulled their support from PM Oli's government. That was on July 16th. They listed about 11 reasons, basically boiling down to failures in governance, controlling corruption, boosting the economy, speeding up development, and making federalism work properly.
Okay, so a pretty comprehensive list of grievances. What's the immediate fallout from this withdrawal?
Well, it tightens PM Oli's majority, or rather reduces his margin,
Uh,
in the National Assembly. Upendra Yadav basically said their role in the coalition felt unclear, like the government didn't really need them.
hmm.
He also specifically pointed to the controversial land bill, arguing it would really hurt people, especially in the Madhya region. He mentioned concerns about deforestation and migration impacts. So, yeah, it signals a definite crack in the coalition.
Interesting. And that leads us to another development, this time within the Prime Minister's own party, the CPN-UML, changes to leadership rules.
That's right. The UML passed a proposal to scrap two key rules, the 70-year age limit for leaders and the two-term cap for executive positions. This was decided in their secretariat, and it still needs to go through the Politburo and Central Committee before their big statute convention in September. But it's a major proposal.
So, what's the thinking behind this? What does it signal, particularly for PMOli himself?
Well, the common interpretation is that this clears the path for Prime Minister Oli to potentially extend his leadership beyond those previous limits.
Right. Keeps the door open for him.
Exactly. It's not just internal party housekeeping. It could impact long-term political stability and who leads the country, which, matters to everyone, including Nepalese abroad, thinking about Nepal's future direction. It also seems times to perhaps sideline a potential comeback by former President Bidya Devi Bhandari. She recently renewed her party membership.
Ah, interesting timing.
Yeah, and Oli publicly said she doesn't have the right executive experience to lead the party right now. So this rule change kind of reinforces his position. They're also planning to shrink the leadership structure, a bit fewer office bearers, smaller central committee.
Okay, so consolidating power, potentially. Now, shifting to something more controversial. These bribery allegations against a current minister.
Yes, there's an audio tape that surfaced. It allegedly implicates the Minister for Land Management, Cooperatives, and Poverty Alleviation, Balram Adhikari. The allegation involves a 3.2 million rupee bribe, supposedly linked to a land deal in Pokhara.
And the minister's response?
He strongly denies it, calls it a conspiracy, character assassination, says he'll face consequences if there's real evidence, but insists he doesn't know the people on the tape and it's not his voice. It definitely puts corruption back in the spotlight.
Absolutely. And this comes amid other tensions, right? Like probes into bill tampering and talk of a cabinet reshuffle. That's right. There is talk of a cabinet reshuffle, apparently making some ministers nervous. And remember, another minister, Rajkumar Gupta, resigned not long ago over a similar bribery audio tape scandal involving 7.8 million rupees.
Right, I remember that.
So opposition leaders like Upendra Yadav are jumping on this, accusing the leadership of selective morality, suggesting maybe who faces consequences depends on their connections or background. Plus, as you said, the upper house is looking into separate allegations about messing with clauses in a civil service bill. So, yeah, lots of political heat right now.
It sounds like it. Let's move to law enforcement. What's the latest regarding the Nepal police? Issues around resources or governance?
Well, the Home Minister, Ramesh Lekhak, announced plans to buy necessary weapons for both the Nepal police and the armed police force. He stressed it would be transparent, follow the law, use current budgets, not old tenders. He framed it as essential for strengthening security, especially border security and crisis readiness.
Okay, procurement is happening. But what about the broader concerns? Public trust, political influence?
That's definitely an ongoing conversation. Concerns about political interference in police work persist. While the Home Minister is in charge, the police leadership itself has a role in navigating that. Experts are suggesting things like maybe setting up a formal police board or a public safety commission.
Made up of?
Eminent, nonpartisan figures from civil society. The idea is to ensure more operational independence and accountability, to move towards, more democratic style of policing away from just being an arm of the state. Building public confidence is key.
A crucial goal. Are there any other political currents we should touch on quickly?
A few things. PM Oli recently called NC President Sher Bahadur Doba his closest and most trustworthy political associate. Quite a statement.
Especially given his past alliances.
Right. And in the same breath, he labeled his former ally, Maoist Center Chair Pushpa Kamal Dahal, a betrayer. So, shifting alliances, clearly. Meanwhile, the Nepali Congress itself is facing pressure from new faces like Bailan Shah, Kulman Gising, and the growing Rashtriya Swatantra Party. Experts are saying the NC leaders Duba, Shekhar Koirala, Gagan Thapa really need to unite to stay relevant.
Internal challenges for the NC.
And finally, the CPN Unified Socialist Party has formally merged with Bamdev Gautam's CPN Unity National Campaign. Their stated goal is to strengthen the communist movement in Nepal. So yeah, lots of maneuvering across the political spectrum.
Definitely a dynamic period. Okay, let's shift away from politics and back towards social issues. There was some really positive news about the National Health Insurance Program.
Yes, this is a big improvement for patients. Basically, all 9.3 million people covered by the government's health insurance can now get their initial treatment the first service point, or FSP, at any of the 377 designated public hospitals nationwide.
Regardless of where they live.
Exactly, regardless of their registered address. This started July 17th. It removes a major hurdle.
That sounds like it would be a huge help, especially for families of Nepalese abroad, right? People who move around.
Absolutely. Migrant workers' families, people returning from abroad, they often struggled with the old, rigid referral system. You had to go to your designated local clinic first. Officials expect this new flexibility will really cut down delays in getting diagnosed and treated. It should ease the burden, especially in rural areas or places where people move frequently. Big step for access.
That's genuinely good news. Okay, but on a less positive health note, there was a bit of controversy around a dengue control suggestion.
Yes, that was unusual. The health minister, Pradip Paudel, suggested stopping all construction work for 4 months.
Stop all construction. Why?
The idea was to stop mosquito breeding in construction sites. But public health experts, entomologists, they pretty much universally called it bizarre, unscientific, and just impractical.
Okay, so not the recommended approach.
Not at all. They pointed out dengue is endemic now. Mosquitoes breed everywhere, houses, offices, discarded tires, not just construction sites.
Right. So what is the consensus on tackling dengue effectively?
The experts are stressing the need for consistent community cleanups, better drainage involving multiple sectors, and really direct door-to-door awareness campaigns. Practical, sustained efforts. And it's serious. Nearly 2,000 cases across 73 districts already this year as of mid-July. Last year saw over 41,000 infections and, sadly, 15 deaths. So it needs effective action.
Definitely. Okay, let's lighten the mood. Some fantastic news from the world of sports. The Nepalese U20 women's football team had a brilliant result.
Oh, they were on fire. On July 17th, they absolutely hammered Sri Lanka 7-0. In the SAFF U20 Women's Championship.
7-0, wow.
Yeah, that hugely boosts their chances for the title, and it was their second 7-0 win against Sri Lanka in the tournament. They also beat Bhutan 6-1, though they had a close loss to Bangladesh. Really strong showing.
Fantastic. And sticking with sports facilities, any update on the Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium in Kiratpur, the floodlights and parapet?
Well, that project missed its July 14th deadline, so the government has actually started fining the construction companies. About 200,000 rupees a day, apparently.
Ouch. So it's delayed.
Delayed, yes.
Yeah.
But PM Oli did say the construction is in its final stages, so hopefully gets finished soon, despite the penalty.
Let's hope so. And for anyone planning a visit to Kathmandu or locals wanting to see a landmark, Dharahara Tower has new hours.
It does. The rebuilt Dharahara is now open 12 hours a day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That includes public holidays, too.
To meet demand.
Exactly. It fully reopened for paid entry last November, and it's been popular. Already brought in over 43 million rupees for more than 237,000 visitors. It's clearly a major attraction and a symbol people connect with.
Great to see it thriving. Now, beyond the big landmarks and stadiums, there are also vital efforts happening at the community level, right? Protecting nature, supporting people. What about the Kanchenjunga area?
Yeah, in the Kanchenjunga Conservation Area, UNESCO is working with local groups, the Management Council and Samredha Pahad. They're installing trail cameras, GPS devices to monitor biodiversity. What's really cool is how they're blending this modern tech with local indigenous knowledge.
That sounds like a really smart approach.
It does.
Yeah.
And the long-term goal is to get it designated as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. It's a great example of conservation partnership.
That's wonderful. And speaking of community impact, there's an inspiring story about burn violence survivors in Lalitpur.
Yes, this is really heartwarming. It's a social enterprise called Inara by Astapwa, Nepal. They run a store selling beautiful handcrafted items, jewelry, candles, macrame, crafts, all made by burn violence survivors.
And the profits go back to help them.
Exactly. Profits are reinvested into supporting the survivors, counseling, training, even seed money to start things. It gives these women, who often face terrible discrimination because of their scars, a way to work with dignity, often from home, and rebuild their lives. A real sense of purpose.
That's incredible. And it ties back to what we were discussing earlier, right? About technology and empowering women entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. It connects perfectly with what Shova Gawali from Corpuan was saying, creating inclusive platforms. And remember that new platform, Umedo Partners. aiming for 1 million users. It's all part of that same drive to connect local talent and enterprise to wider markets.
It all fits together. Now, on a cultural note, the Duda Festival was celebrated recently.
Yes, in Kathmandu's Tundikal. It's all about preserving the language and culture of the Sudurprashim and Karnali regions. It's traditionally held on the first day of Shravan, which was July 17th this year. It's actually a public holiday in Karnali province, a lovely way to keep traditions alive in the capital.
Beautiful. On a slightly more concerning environmental note, there's an issue with cattle. Lumpy skin disease?
Unfortunately, yes. There's a localized outbreak in Nawal Parasi. About 34 unvaccinated cattle infected so far. It's a worry for milk production. And this disease has actually spread to 76 districts since 2020. Infected over 500,000 cattle, caused around 21,000 deaths nationwide. So it's a persistent problem for farmers.
A serious challenge. And one last crucial update for anyone traveling a major highway closure.
Yes, important for listeners to know. The Kavar-Palanchok section of the BP highway is closed at night for a month.
Which hours?
5 p.m. to 5 a.m., 12 hours overnight. This is because of the heightened risk of landslides and floods during the monsoon.
And the BP highway connects.
It's the shortest route linking Kathmandu Valley with eastern Nepal. So this night closure will definitely impact travel plans for many. Need to plan around it.
Good to know. Okay, let's transition now specifically to the diaspora and global connections. A key interest for many listeners is opportunities abroad. Any news on the Nepal-Israel Agriculture Internship Program?
Yes, there are active talks happening to get that program running again. Discussions between the Israeli ambassador and Nepal's education minister. This program has a long history, Since 2001, over 4,000 Nepalese agriculture students have participated. Many came back and made real contributions to Nepal's farming sector.
Right, it was quite successful, but it was suspended, wasn't it, after the Hamas attack last October?
It was. That's why these talks are happening now. Both governments seem keen to restart it. Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs even put out a notice saying things are back to normal in Israel, so the program can technically continue as before.
Okay, so governments are pushing for it. But are there any other factors, concerns being raised?
There are. Some rights groups have consistently raised concerns about potential exploitation of workers, poor living conditions on some commercial farms in Israel. And, Israel's current global image due to the regional conflict is also a factor some consider.
So some ethical considerations alongside the opportunity.
Exactly. But despite those questions, demand among young Nepalese for these internships is still really high, simply because job options back home can be limited. The Israeli envoy actually urged Nepal to get students registered quickly, otherwise Nepal might miss out on sending nearly 1,000 interns this year. So there's pressure to move fast.
A complex situation then.
Oh.
Okay, shifting from Israel to China, cross-border trade is vital for Nepal. Any news on the Rasuagati border point after those floods?
Yes, some positive movement there. After the floods and landslides on July 8th basically cut off the link, China has agreed to build a Bailey Bridge.
A temporary bridge.
Yes, a Bailey Bridge to get trade flowing again. This is really critical, especially with Dashain and Tihar coming up. Nepal relies heavily on imports from China through Rasuagati clothes, electronics, construction stuff.
So getting that route open again before the festivals is key. What about the Nepalese people who were stuck there?
Good news there, too. Around 91 Nepalese citizens, mostly workers and traders, stranded in Kirung, just across the border in Tibet, are expected to return home soon. They'll likely come back via the Tautapani border point in Santupalchok. Chinese authorities have apparently been looking after them and are helping arrange their return.
That's a relief.
Yeah. And there's another list of about 117 Nepalese working in that area who've also asked for help to return. So repatriation efforts are underway.
Good to hear. Finally, let's talk about Nepalese making their mark internationally. It's always inspiring to see representation on global platforms.
Absolutely. And there's a great example recently. Laxman Dat Pant, he's the founder of Media Action Ascensions. Nepal has been elected to the steering committee of the Global Forum for Media Development, GFMD.
GFMD, that's a major organization, right?
It's huge, the world's largest network of journalism support and media development groups. And he's the first Nepalese ever to hold a position like this on their steering committee. He'll be representing the Asia, Pacific, and Oceania region. It's a fantastic achievement.
That really is significant. It brings Nepal's perspective right into global discussions on press freedom and media issues.
Exactly. It puts Nepal and South Asia's media development issues right at the heart of global strategy talks.
And do you think these individual achievements, like Mr. Pants, contribute to a bigger picture, a sort of a growing narrative for the diaspora.
I think they definitely do. It shows Nepalese contributing meaningfully on the world stage beyond just national borders. Another example, Kishore Shrestha, former head of the Press Council Nepal. He was recently elected vice chairman of the World Press Council.
Another great example.
Right. It reflects that growing interconnectedness. It reminds you of that line in the digest about threads of humanity weaving across borders.
Mm.
How sharing simple things like Nepali chia or food, even in the kitchen in Germany, can create these deep connections. These global roles are a more formal version of that same growing presence and influence.
That's a lovely way to put it. Okay. As you can hear, there's just so much happening both within Nepal and across the global Nepalese community. And we know how important it is to stay connected wherever you are.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, especially friends and community members in the UK, we just wanted to give a quick mention to a useful resource, belayat.uk.
Yeah, it's belayat.uk. It's basically a classifieds platform specifically designed for Nepalese in the UK. So if you're looking for jobs, housing, community events, or maybe trying to find Nepalese-owned businesses near you, it's worth checking out.
It's meant to be just a helpful community tool, really.
Mhm.
Friendly, easy to use, not a hard sell, just connecting people. So belayat.uk.
All right. And that pretty much wraps up our deep dive for today, looking at the latest news from Nepal and the diaspora. We hope this has given you a clearer, maybe more connected picture of the really important things shaping your community and homeland right now.
Yeah, we've covered quite a bit, haven't we? From economic shifts like the wage hike and that stock market buzz to the political changes and governance issues, right through to those positive social stories, health updates, and the growing global footprint of Nepalese individuals and communities. I think the main takeaway is that Nepal is incredibly dynamic. Facing real challenges, yes, but also showing some serious resilience and forward momentum in key areas.
Absolutely. And if you want to read the full Nepali Diaspora Digest newsletter, get even more details, or find other useful resources, make sure you visit nepalidiaspora.net.
That's nepalidiaspora.net. And, thinking about all this, whether you're deeply involved in what's happening back home or maybe just keeping an eye on things from afar, that connection is always there, always evolving. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thinking ahead. How will the global Nepalese community, with all its growing influence and networks, continue to shape Nepal's story? How will it contribute to that narrative of progress and resilience for the next generation? Something to think about.
A great question to leave our listeners with. Until next time, keep digging deeper, stay informed, and keep the conversation going.